in the energy sector. Thank you very much.
Great. Yeah, sorry about the technical hitch, but we'll continue nonetheless. I think they were quite a bit flexible just to try and stand up so that you can hear them at the back to hear about what their companies are all about. But we're here to talk about circular business solutions, and we're talking to the three gentlemen and the lady, getting to know what they do more in terms of circularity. Let me just begin with the lady for balance purposes. Rosalind, tell us a little bit about more what Biofood does in terms of the innovations that you have within circularity. And what does circularity mean for Biofoods?
For us, it's very simple. It's closing the loop. Just making sure that throughout our processes, we, first of all, reduce the waste as much as possible, and then make sure that whatever waste is comes out of our processes is actually recycled, reused, and all that. I'm pretty sure someone is going to talk about packaging, so let me give an example of something that's maybe not common amongst us. As I said, we are a dairy processing company, so we also process cheese. And one of the waste that comes from cheese is whey, which is usually sometimes thrown away. But for us, we give that whey to people who have animals, say pigs and all that, because that's good food for them. So that makes sure that we are not putting whey into the sewer systems, which would be a whole other complex issue for city council to treat and all that. So for us, it's closing the loop, making sure that the waste is reduced to the highest level possible. And a while back, which is maybe 5 years ago, the circular economy concept for us changed into redesigning. So when it comes to packaging, you'd want all your waste to be recycled, but if in the beginning your waste, your packaging wasn't even designed properly for it to be recyclable, it makes it complex. So we began this journey of just making our packaging more recyclable. And most of you who are familiar with our journey, 4 years ago, we were using white PET bottles. PET is recyclable for sure, but there is more value in clear PET than there is in white PET. So that was a journey that we took, and finally last year we were able to do that. So now when it comes to recyclers, they're able to recycle this easily because clear PET has more usage than that. Make sure that whatever bottles, say milk bottles in this case, that land into the market are very attractive to recyclers and are going to be recycled. So for me, that looks like us closing the loop.
Very interesting. You know, I was reading something and they said that for every 10,000 words that a gentleman speaks, a lady speaks more. So in essence, ideally what you're trying to say is that you're designing out waste, right? And that's really interesting. That's a component that I actually picked from the conversation that you had. Let me bring in Christian. I mean, you talk about redesigning our waste, and I want to find out the interface between technology, because it spoke about you being a technology company, a solutions company with circularity. How do we have a nexus between the two?
Yeah, so where do we fit in? That's actually the question. So we don't produce anything. We're not a manufacturer, but we provide a lot of our customers with the IT equipment and services around that. We've actually been voted as the most sustainable IT service provider in the world by Global 100. So that's kind of like, that follows a responsibility with that. So during the last 12 years, we've had a concept about e-waste, actually called Loop. So it's familiar naming. Where we helped our customers to both prolong the lifespan of their products, so that we make sure that the production of the hardware is prolonged as long as possible. It actually, there is around 1.2 tons of waste when you produce a single laptop. So we need to take care of it for as long as possible, and thereby also closing the loop and getting it back. For a lot of enterprise companies and also SMBs, there's a concern with security. so they don't know what to do with the equipment. Sometimes they stay in the basements, sometimes they don't know what to do with it. So we handle a lot with let's say police or government concerning this concern. So they don't want their information discarded around, finding something in a trash can where you can get information about medical records or something like that. So we help them address the issue and thereby also bringing all the metals and into circulation again. So that's kind of like us at the adding benefits to the loop.
Great. So basically, you're saying that you're adding value to the process, ensuring that these companies have a sense of security with their systems. They are able to collect data and make decisions out of them. That's something that they call decision support systems, which are always very critical. And you mentioning that brings to mind this gentleman with dreadlocks called Giuliani. I want to, when you spoke about use of technology, I know what you have at the community, and I want you to shed more light on that. How can technology
Sustainability starts with the simple things that you do. So even if you're running a small business, you could make sure that every day you switch off your lights by 8 or 9 a.m. depending on the weather. You could, just make sure that your taps are not leaking. It's just the small things, and there's money in running your business sustainably. If you switch off your lights when there's enough sunlight, it's cheaper for you in terms of the electricity bills that you're paying. If your tap is not leaking, which means you're probably going to change a tap for 300 bob, but then for the rest of the year, your bills are going to be less. So there is money in sustainability, and sustainability doesn't always have to be linked to sustainability reporting frameworks. You'll hear people saying GRI, now there is TNFD, TCFD, all those things. Of course, there's complexities when it comes to that. You're probably going to need a sustainability expert or to hire a consultant, but it doesn't have to start there. It never starts there, because even the people who are reporting are already doing something before they report. So you start by doing the small things, and then you report. And then the other thing is you can even report without necessarily following the reporting frameworks that are available. I'd urge you to go to our website for biofoods, and you'll see that we've been reporting for the last 4 years. It wasn't mandatory for us because we've not been listed, but we just decided to do a report in our own way just to show how much impact we're making. Because if we're recycling water, we think that's something that people should know. If we're redesigning our packaging, we think that that's something that people should know. So you don't always have to mix and match TNFD, TCFD, GRI together for you to have like an official report. You can always do it voluntarily. You can even start with 2 pages, 5 pages. So now that's off my mind. I can actually now answer the SME question. So we work with different kind of suppliers. Some of them are big, some of them are small. It's easy to explain to big suppliers why we need them to be more sustainable, because they are also trying the same thing. I've been talking too much.
Is that fire
Is that a fire alarm?
alarm? So to tell people to run out? Can someone just check if that's an emergency call so we don't sit here and continue the conversation?
I can't continue. Yes, but we have smaller suppliers whom we have to hold their hand and really just explain what sustainability is. And for the last 1.5 years, we've had a checklist where we've been just letting them know on the things that they can actually work on. I can't focus.
I don't think they're listening to you.
Me
Just
too.
pause
Me
until
too. Me too.
the sound is switched off.
Too much.
So just trying out if the sound is good. and we'll get to you in a moment. Good. Before they think about what they want to ask you, did you see a hand? Is there a hand? I think these guys were shocked after that emergency sound, so they're ready to go home. Atia, you know, I was thinking to myself, am I pronouncing the name correctly? Is it Atia? Is it Atia? You know, it looks like T when you remove the A, right?
Yeah.
So I was about to say A-T, R-T, so what's the
pronounced in Danish? It's Atea.
Atia.
Yeah.
Awesome, okay. It's good to get the correct pronunciation. So, looking at the solutions that you have and some of the discussions you've just had about the transition in Kenya, where do you see the most possibility of connection with the solutions that you have?
So what we're also talking about at the booth.
When they're not in their business model, they need to concentrate more on doing the production and maybe doing the service other than looking for capital to be able to get the technology. And especially if you're able to come up with a model of them being able to utilize technology as a service, okay? So that now we have a company that has that technology whereby these other SMEs can come and do their production, okay? Or utilize the technology and then move out and leave that space to another enterprise to come in. Because truthfully, for the most of the companies that have technology or doing manufacturing, they utilize less than 40% of their capacity, meaning 60% runs idle. But in their business model, if they can be able to have a different model whereby SMEs can be able to access their technology to produce their products or service and sell it out there, it can work. It will be able to help in two things. One, be able to accelerate their growth. Two, because of the fact that more often than not they don't have access to technology, it's very hard for them to be able to qualify for the standard requirements. Things like the Kenya Bureau of Standards and everything. Because they'll always come and look at it. Your outlay, your process outlay and everything. But if they can be able to have that access to the facilities and technology as a service by having other SMEs who have that ability to have that technology but be able to bring in the SMEs to use it as a service, it can work perfectly. And even to add to what we were talking about, the idea of like now the way people who are attached to things like phones and TVs and everything. If you can be able to come up with models, the same way we are having aggregation centers, you know, for the takatakas and everything, but specifically for particular waste streams in the technology space, okay? And us training the youth to be able to do the repair model, and so that at the end of the day, they're able to access that as a service to develop more products that can be repurposed or reused, okay? Then I think it provides new streams for income and for access to employability and entrepreneurship. Yep.
Great. I see we are 1 minute to 12. That means 16 minutes to go. And I'm looking at the audience. Is there anyone who has a question? I see a gentleman there and a lady there. You know, I was about to flip this thing around and ask the panelists if they have questions for you. And I was going to ask the guy to move around with the mic, and I was randomly going to point at anyone, and Juliana would ask them a question. So these guys have saved you. Yeah, so let's get a question from, there's a gentleman right there, then there was a lady right here. Then there's also another gentleman here.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Anthony from Kenya School of Government. So I have just, I think, 2 questions and maybe an observation. I think one of my observations would then be, which turns into a question. If you're talking about circular economy, we're also talking about reducing of this kind of waste, isn't it? We're talking about quality products. And this is, I'm trying to look at it from those who are in the SMEs that translate to waste processing and are dependent on this. So if we are to go, if we are to go through the whole of the circular economy cycle, especially by starting through reduction of waste, what ensures security in terms of employment for the SMEs that are in this business, isn't it? How are we going to strike a balance? I think that's where my question now comes in. And then the other one would be about what are the challenges that these SMEs are facing, maybe it's not only the SMEs, but in terms of behavior change in regards to those of us who generate waste, in terms of segregation, because I know it makes expensive how to run your enterprises, isn't it? So what do you think we can also do about that kind of a conversation on behavior change that is for not only the people involved in the waste value chain, but also for policymakers in regards to that? And then what are you going to, what is the possible outcome in terms of innovation? Because different SMEs have different innovation strategies, and that is how they stay afloat in business. Not only by replicating what others are doing, but by coming up with new innovative ideas. How are we going to secure these innovations, isn't it? Through either copywriting or ensuring that we can sustain some of these SMEs in business for a longer time and thus continue creating employment. Just those. Thank you.
Thank you. You said your name is Don, right?
No, Anthony.
Anthony. Oh yeah, you know, in my mind I think I shortened it, so it's Tony, so I think it was Don. Sorry, so Anthony. So we had another question right here. There was a lady, and then there's the gentleman. Oh, the lady's there, then we come at reformed. And I think we can handle those three questions.
Thank you so much. I'm Winnie Masita from Essence Park. And my question is, we all know of reduce, reuse, and recycle. What are your thoughts on upcycling? What are you going to do about it?
Okay. Sorry, you know, I'm poor at names. I always have to say it 2 times. You said your name is? Winnie. Awesome. The gentleman here with the, yeah, he had his hand up first. Sorry.
Hi. Okay, thank you very much. I think that was a very good presentation. And I think the value shared is quite impressive. I was just thinking about, we are looking at it more so from the end.
You didn't say your name, sir.
I was going to say it last,
Okay.
but let me say it first then. Moremi is my name from Practical Solutions. So what I'm saying is education seems not to be so mentioned. I know we've looked at value and all that, but how do we get to emphasize on education? Because I think when we get educated on how to contribute towards this loop, a lot more people are going to buy in. Giuliani brought in a good point about paying people to dispose. How can we bring that more? Because I think people create waste so easily, but it is so hard to convert it into a product which can be used later on. Can we create a kind of a value system by telling people we are going to pay them for their waste that they are having if they package it well? End of the day, looks like the people who are so keen in terms of propagating this whole issue of waste management and waste, it almost looks like a segregated small people who have seen the gold mine, yet the rest of the multitudes are still throwing away trash all around. How do we create a loop around all those so that it becomes so much easier to talk about waste management in a conclusive way? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for those questions from Anthony, Winnie, and Moremi. Let's begin with Dr. Mike about SMEs. Anthony asked, how do you ensure that the SMEs have a security of business?
Yeah.
security of innovation,
Yeah.
and ensure that we get the aspect of behavior change.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I think that's boils down to the ESOs, Ian and everybody. So that at the end of the day, if you're talking about that, the idea of waste and just the idea of coming up with new ways of doing things, innovation, patenting, trademarking, it boils down to the entrepreneurial support organizations. When they're coming up with programs and projects, can they be able to, it is just not a matter of taking them through the idea of marketing and everything, but ensuring that their innovations are patented and they're trademarked through KIPI and all that, KEBS and all that. And more importantly, looking at that taxonomy and identify which part of the loop are you implementing innovation. Because you can do innovation in terms of a product or a process. Innovate how it is being utilized. If it is a product that is being utilized, instead of it being sold, in a packaging, it can be sold through an ATM, and you basically come up with a way of patenting it. In terms of behavioral change, we have the new Sustainable Waste Management Bill. I know the PROs, the KEPROs and all that. If they're able to come up with programs targeted at behavioral change right from the household level, talking about schools, talking about churches and any places we have social gathering on behavioral change. I know in Kenya it can be tricky. We are Kenyans, we know that very well. But if it's something that can start from that lower level, is club with few people, but bringing other people in the ecosystem who can work to be able to bring behavioral change, then that's when it can work very well. Yeah.
Awesome. Giuliani. So, sijui kama masaa meditation imefika ama
hii kiti
meditation
no na lazima ni
yeah, so I mean they talked about ensuring that the businesses are secure, right? But I want you to bring in another aspect. They say there's nothing new under the sun. So you might sit there and think that your idea is the only one in the world, and yet Giuliani is seated somewhere and is also thinking about the same thing. Now, the difference here is who implements it first, or who goes to patent the idea. Huyu jamaa amefanya jambo la busara sana.
Bado 2 minutes.
Asante. Hii 2 minutes tutamaliza.
Kitu sawa.
So, this guy has made my thoughts go away, so I need a sip of water.
But I think it's an issue of leverage.
Yeah.
Apart from just the idea, it's leverage. Who has leverage? Either who has gone to the market first or who has leverage. And of course...
so how can we educate the businesses or businessmen, entrepreneurs?
So from the communities, the businessmen to governments, I think for me, based on my experience in the space, it's about we have to care about the things that they care about. So what do government care about? As far, yes, we are talking about waste management, and we are pushing the governments. I mean, the government is pushing businesses to do the KEPRO thing. Everybody is pushing everybody, but if we have conversation around what do I care about as a person in the neighborhood, Dandora, I care about my children going to school, food, my health. So how do we link waste and generating waste towards that? The businesses, small businesses, how do we, beyond just, you're going to build your profit margins and stuff like that, we need to talk about what do these people care about? And that's what we realize when you're doing our pilot in Dandora. We're trying to go to the houses and telling them, hey, Niaji, environment, but they don't care about the environment that particular moment. They just want to make sure that they have food on their table. So we told them, actually, if you give us waste and we store this waste for you and put value around it, then somehow your unga will be on your table because we know how to convert this value. And that also links up with the education part of it. Because education for me is that since I started this space, I realized that everybody has been telling people what to do. You know, hey, segregate, put this here, put this here, put this here. And the truth is, when you tell people what to do and they have no connection whatsoever around, or there's no practical
doing it.
application about how this will help them, at least in Kenya, because when we were collecting Dandora, when you tell them, this piece of paper will get you a unga, people in Kilimani, they don't respond to that. People in Kilimani probably say, donate your waste so that we can help our children's home. That they'll respond to that more. So, I mean, I'm an artist, so I understand the whole idea of know your audience. But the whole idea for me, even in education, it's always been a lecture and what you need to do and why you're not doing it right. Instead of sitting down and say, okay, you care about this, I think this will somehow get you in the place where you need to be as an individual, as a business, some SME, whatever it is.
Awesome. Hapa kwa donate your waste, I think unless they're donating iPhone 12, hiyo ni sawa.
No, they've been actually, because the generators, like places like Kibera, Dandora, they don't generate that much waste. So the Kilimanis, the Karens, and wana matakataka, juu wanabuy vitu kwa supermarket. They buy stuff in the supermarket. People like in Dandora, Kibera, they buy things in small
Quantities.
So because we collect waste based on brand names and waste, and so we want to know which brand to use and stuff like that. So the Kilimanis and all this are the people who actually generate. But also they care about where that waste ends up.
Okay.
So they want to do something about it, but there's no proper solution or a big enough organization that they can trust to collect for them. So, and that's our experience as far as Taka Bank when we started.
Awesome. So Morimi asked about paying the people for waste, and I want to bring in Christian on this. How do we monetize? You know, Giuliani spoke about collecting the data. How do we monetize this? Do you see a possibility of us monetizing the data so that we're able to translate that to some revenue back to the community?
Yeah, actually there's often a lot of residual value, so people will buy the stuff, or even the waste has a value in IT equipment. I don't know if you heard Magnus, our environmental minister, earlier today. He talked about that we had a system in place in Denmark for every beverage that is sold, that you pay a little fee, and you get that fee back when you return the bottle. I had an interview with a school in Denmark, with kids, and come up with new ideas in regards to circularity, and they all said the same thing. Why don't we do that with our electronics? So you pay a fee when you buy it, and you'll get it back when you return it out of some collection stand. Yeah, that there's money in a used bottle, and that's why we get, I think, about 97%. So that could be implemented, you know, new stuff like that. So you pay a fee for the products that you buy, and you will get it back.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea. I see we have 1 minute to go. We're almost out of your face, don't worry. We'll keep time. Rosalind, quick question. I mean, Winnie talked about upcycling. I'm not so sure if something we want to talk about right now, bottle to bottle. Yes, no?
Pardon?
Winnie talked about, Winnie asked a question on upcycling. I mean, she spoke about just recycling and upcycling. So do you see opportunities for upcycling in the Kenya economy right now?
Yes. So the reason my yes is 70-30
Okay.
is because I do not have a lot of experience when it comes to upcycling. I only know of a few, not even a few, I only know of one business that's actually doing it. And I was hoping Daktari, because he's lived longer than I have, I assume, would have much more experience when it comes to upcycling. But I definitely think there is opportunity for that, because I've seen people making money out of it. Yes.
Yeah, it is happening, but it is very informal.
Okay.
We have upcycling all over, where a product is utilized for another purpose once it reaches its end of life. We see it all over. You see the mkokoteni in town and all that. And you see people using a product in a different way. It has always happened. It's only that it looks like a bigger word, but it's only that it is in our system and it has been very informal. The whole idea is to be able to formalize it so that now, therefore, from suggestion that we can have businesses developing a totally different business model that encourages upcycling in various sectors, from electronics to clothing and textile to use of energy, food, and all that. It is so possible, the idea, and that one now brings new opportunities for SMEs to punch in, and at the same time, even for the multinationals to come up with new ways of doing things. Yeah.
Awesome.
Amadi, if I may, I think my favorite is containers. What they do with containers.
Okay.
My favorite hotel in Diani is Boxo, made out of very nice containers. Well, I was going there, the first time I went there, I was going there to just have an experience so that I can have my own opinion. But then it ended up being the one place that I consistently go back. So I believe people are doing a lot when it comes to that. But I only know so much about the containers, turning the containers into houses, containers into hotels and all that. But I do believe there's an opportunity for more.
Okay, great. Sorry, you are 2 minutes past, but I'll just ask you to give your closing remarks, beginning with Christian right there. 10 seconds. Closing remarks.
So the closing remarks will be, well, come by the booth, hear about our story, and let's collaborate. I think we can do way better than we do today.
Awesome. Let's appreciate Christian. Rosa.
My closing remark will be a quote from Peter Seeger. It's a long one, but I'll just summarize it. He says, if it cannot be reduced, reused, recycled, composted, it must be redesigned or removed from the production line. And I think that's a good thing to go by in whatever operations you're doing. Also, take biomilk. It is very nice.
Bees.
Let's appreciate Rosa as well for joining us. Mr. Giuliani.
Yeah, based on my experience, I don't think we have a waste problem. I think we have a communication problem. Nimesahau na venye niko na point tatu kali.
Ulikuwa mkizungu, not
Niko nimezipoint. We have a communication problem, we have a behavior problem. And I think we need to look at waste beyond the waste itself. I think we can we have to see beyond. So check us out, Taka Bank. We've been here for 4 years trying different models, and I think finally we figured it out. So we hopefully scale soon.
Awesome. I appreciate Giuliani. We don't have the track. We'll have asked the DJ to give us a mix a little bit. Dr. Mike.
Yeah, just to reiterate what Juliana has said, we should be able to look at waste as not just waste, but look at it from the perspective of the whole loop on how we can be able to develop SMEs that eventually have more opportunities and eventually we have zero waste. Yeah.
Kuna point, sawa, sema.
So one of the, I forgot to sell myself, Bana. So anytime you book me for a concert, 20% of anything that we receive go back to our community project in doing waste management. So book me for stuff.
Incredible artist right here, and I'm really humbled that he honored our request for him to come and perform today. Normally he does bigger gigs than this. Sawa sawa, but nasema asante. Mtu anasema nini. We appreciate. So everyone on the panel, we want to appreciate them for joining us today. Apologies for taking 5 more minutes of your time. Hopefully we'll give you back with some discounted Handshake, yes, awesome. Have a nice day. And each one of you has a place to contribute in terms of ensuring that we transition to circularity. Asanteni sana. Msiache plastic hapa. Ndeni nayo.
To announce the next session which we'll be having in the afternoon and also the other parts of the program. So after this panel discussion, the first panel discussion on circular business solutions, which was moderated by Ebenezer Amadi from KEPSA, we have time allocated for the booth tour. I remember even in our communication, the main purpose of having this event is to be able to showcase the circular business solutions. So engage as much as you can with the individual businesses that are showcasing. And of course, most of them are looking for collaborations, partnerships, or even creating awareness around their products. So between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m., we have networking lunch. So this is to allow you time to also interact with the other participants. And I also hope that you are able to have collaborations among yourselves. Then in the afternoon from 2 to around 3:30 for around 90 minutes, we'll be having the second panel discussion for today. So the panel discussion will be moderated by the Confederation of Danish Industries, specifically Klaus. And this one will focus on competency and skills to support Kenya's transition to circular economy. It's a very interesting area. Remember, most of the participants in the panel which we have just concluded are saying we have a commitment to circularity. I think that will be one of the focus of that discussion. We have around 6 panelists for that panel discussion. We have NEMA, we have KEPRO, we have the Kenya School of Government, we have Waste Management Association of Kenya, then we have Lakisama Environmental and Waste Management Organization, and Kenya Alliance of Residential Associations, KARA. Trust me, it's going to be an interesting discussion.